Slavery is back.
Welcome to a place where private business profit from a captive labour force, yet pennies are spent on medical services to a population in which the Indigenous, the poor and the mentally ill are overrepresented. Where isolation, humiliation and degradation are facts of life. Welcome to prison.
It depends who's telling the story, I suppose. The prisoners would have one view, the people who work in the prison system would have another, and I think it's up to people to decide where the truth is.
Give government propaganda and the media spin doctors the flick. And check out Doin' Time for news, views and tunes on prison issues from Guantanamo Bay to Christmas Island to prisons and detention centres everywhere. Every Monday at 4 p.m. on your community radio 3CR.
We are still fired up and we're still talking about revolution.
Hello and welcome to the Doin' Time Show. This is 3CR Community Radio, 855 AM on the dial, streaming live on www.3cr.org.au. And Peter and I are here today. This is Marissa and we'll be taking you through until 5 o'clock this evening. Hi, Pete.
Hi.
Now, first up on the show, and before I actually introduce the first topic, I just wanted to say that this is a special broadcast dedicated to building the movement to stop Aboriginal deaths in custody. And just a warning that there may be verbal images of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples that have died.
Verbal stuff.
Yes, that's right, Peter. Now, it's approximately 4:01 and first up we're going to be speaking with Priscilla. And Priscilla is actually from North Australian Aboriginal Justice Agency, and we're going to be speaking with her shortly about Mr. Walker, who's a young 19-year-old Indigenous man who died, and I believe he's from Alice Springs, from a remote community, and I will leave it up to Priscilla to actually introduce Mr. Walker and what land he's from. Mr. Walker was brutally shot by police whilst he was in custody, and because the matter is still under investigation, there are limits as to what we can say. Absolutely nothing wrong with talking about what's happened in the media, and Priscilla and I will actually enter into a discussion about Aboriginal deaths in custody in general and talk about what happened with the shooting. The policeman involved has been charged with murder, and we'll speak about that too shortly. Then after that, we're going to be speaking with, well, actually, no, we're not going to be speaking with anybody at all, actually. We're going to be having a press conference. The press conference has already happened. It happened on the 11th of November 2019. It was in regards to the inquest of Auntie Tanya Day. Now, Tanya Day died in custody in December 2017. She is a 55-year-old grandmother who fell asleep on a V-line train, and she fell and suffered a head injury while she was in custody in a police cell. And we recorded a press conference last Monday morning, and we'll be playing that shortly as well. So, Peter's going to be playing a song called Wolfpack now, and we'll get Priscilla on the phone.
Oh, this is Wolfpack, and the song's called Screaming Queens.
No
up against intolerance and bigotry? Will you be an advocate for societal change? Are you a representative of freedom and equality? Or is your existence just a fucking waste? And what we're screaming, how do you feel this noise? Your labor's a lie, but you can't stop our voice. Silence disciples can't put you in a choice.
Most LGBTIQ people experience positive, intimate, and family relationships. However, like cisgendered heterosexual people, some LGBTIQ people experience abuse and violence in their relationships. With Respect is a new family violence service for LGBTIQ plus Victorians, providing counselling and recovery programs for victims and survivors of family violence and help for people using violence who want to stop. With Respect is a partnership between Queer Space, Thorn Harbour Health, Switchboard Victoria and Transgender Victoria. For more information, visit withrespect.org.au or call 1800 542 847. With Respect is not a crisis service. If you need immediate help, call 000.
A 3CR supporter.
Yep.
And you're back with the Doing Time show. And unfortunately, we've had some technical difficulties and we're unable to get on to Priscilla to speak about this very shocking, sad death of Mr. Walker. But we will try and get Priscilla shortly. We're going to be playing the press conference that happened outside the Coroner's Court last Monday, the 11th of November. But before we do, the Doing Time show just wanted to thank ABC TV for helping us with this audio as we had some technical difficulties. But indeed, we're playing that press conference shortly. Just wanted to update listeners about what's going on with the inquest of Tanya Day. The final decisions and findings will be handed down in early February, March. And there's been quite a lot in the media about the inquest, which is pleasing, and it's quite good coverage actually. There was actually a really good article in the News Daily, and it's entitled "Victoria Police Responsible for Mum's Death." Miss Day suffered 5 falls while in police custody, and yeah, there was really good stuff in the Guardian. But just to summarise some of the oral submissions from the inquest. The Doing Time show we attended last Monday, as we said, and the Human Rights and Equal Opportunity Commission made some oral submissions about unconscious bias and systemic racism, and talked a lot about the Charter, the Human Rights Charter of Victoria, and so looking at how, for example, Tanya's liberties may have been eroded. So that's one of the submissions that have been put forward. And of course, the family of Tanya Day put forward an oral submission. And basically, just to summarise, the individual police needed to be held accountable for the custody of Yorta woman Tanya Day. And her children argued to the Victorian Coroner's Court that it's about police investigating police. If there is no criminal investigation, there will be more deaths in custody, the family says. There is no doubt in our mind the Victoria Police are responsible for our mum's death, that she died in custody because police targeted her for being Aboriginal, then ignored her and left her to die on the floor of a police cell. And that was a direct quote from Belinda Day, and you'll hear more detail in the press conference. So Belinda Day told reporters outside the court in Melbourne on Monday, Victoria Police still have not apologised for our mum's death. Without accountability, there will never be justice. The 55-year-old grandmother was woken from sleep on a V-Line train, then fell and suffered a head injury while in a police cell on December the 5th, 2017. She died 2 weeks later. Her family also want Coroner Caitlin English to acknowledge that systemic racism and unconscious bias were central to Miss Day's death. The calls come in a written submission to the inquest into Miss Day's death before final oral submissions were heard in court last Monday. the Day family argued for three main things: for individual police officers to be held accountable through a criminal investigation, for Victoria Police, V-Line and Ambulance Victoria to be held to account through a finding that systemic racism was a cause of Miss Day's death, for a recommendation police stop investigating other police. The family argued that on the evidence heard so far, it is possible police have committed offences which the coroner should refer to the Department of Public Prosecutions. The submission also argues systemic racism and unconscious bias played a central role in Miss Day's death because public drunkenness laws were more likely to be applied to her as an Aboriginal woman. They have also stressed the significance of the coroner's findings and for future generations. Now, some of the things that came up in the inquest last Monday, and indeed the Doin' Time show has attended quite a lot of the inquest, but in particular, the things that emerged last Monday were in regards to the police and in particular being unable to accept the systemic racism. And indeed, the police have not even apologised to the Day family. So that's actually incredibly negligent on the part of the police. And it'll be interesting to see what the coroner says about that. But I, as a radio broadcaster, found it very interesting at the inquest to see how, you know, the police lawyer, and this is public knowledge, you know, that the police lawyer failed to really see that really that systemic racism was a part of it, and that's actually quite disappointing. The Human Rights and Equal Opportunity Commission quoted Section 12 of the Charter, which was a right to freedom of movement, and that was actually talked about in the context of V-Line, what was happening, the fact that they were saying that Tanya was unruly, and also Section 72 of the Charter was also quoted as well, and talked about the obligations under the Act. So giving proper consideration to act compassionately, and then finally on the right to liberty. So quite a lot of information there, and I'm sure there'll be transcriptions available in February. But I just wanted to give a little bit of a summary and just to express disappointment on behalf of the Doin' Time show that there really hasn't been all that much progress in regards to police investigating police, that there really does need to be an independent investigation, and that also that the recommendations of the Royal Commission into Aboriginal deaths in custody have not been upheld. And this is something that has been talked about quite extensively throughout the whole inquest. So, Peter, are you ready to put the audio on soon? So
Yeah.
we will actually give you the press conference right now. Thank you very much.
Are being killed by the police. We want to pay our respects and condolences to Kunjai Walker's family, a young 19-year-old man who was killed in his home and shot by the police. No police officer has ever been held criminally responsible for an Aboriginal person's death, despite hundreds of Aboriginal people dying in their care. In our submission to the court, we argue that abolishing the offence of public drunkenness is not enough, that this alone will not prevent more Aboriginal people dying in custody. To see change, police must be held accountable. For as long as the government and the courts let police act with bias and impunity, deaths in custody will continue. We have told the coroner that the most important thing to us that she finds racism was the cause of our mum's death, and that she referred the police who were supposed to care for our mum for criminal investigation. Only by telling the truth will anything change.
As Aboriginal people, we see systemic racism and how it is built into the fabric of institutions like Victoria Police. We see how systems like police investigating police perpetuate impunity. and therefore failed to deliver truth and justice, the things we want most. Our mum was a strong, proud and loving yorta mother, grandmother, sister and auntie. She deserved dignity. She should be alive today to see her grandchildren grow up. At the time of Mum's death, Aboriginal women were 10 times more likely to be arrested for being drunk in public. There is no doubt in our mind that Victoria Police are responsible for our mum's death. That she died in custody because police targeted her for being Aboriginal and then ignored her and left her to die on a floor in a police cell. Victoria Police still have not apologised for our mum's death. Without accountability, there will never be justice.
April, why is it so important for you to see the police officers involved be prosecuted for reports and charges laid against them?
Well, there's been hundreds of Aboriginal people that have died at the hands of police and they've never been prosecuted. And for us, it's important that that happens now because it's going to put men to Aboriginal deaths in custody.
Belinda, what difference would it make if systemic racism was acknowledged by the police force and Victoria? What difference would it make to you?
It's a massive change in that sort of that mentality. I think it's very much hidden under the surface. It's clear to us that systemic racism was a part of that, and it'd be really good to see the systems itself acknowledge that.
You've both sent messages to Victoria Police and all the other organisations involved around this before. What message would you send to them?
I guess we're just reiterating what we've been saying. We want the systemic racism to really be weaned out of the systems, and we want people to start being held accountable for the lives of Aboriginal people that they're taking. And sadly, our mum was one of them, and we're just going to continue to fight until she gets the justice that she deserves.
Belinda, your mother was one of them. Can you foresee other women, other men like your mother being in the same situation, something as that?
Absolutely. Unfortunately, that's the case, and we see that with the young man in the Northern Territory that it continues to perpetuate. So if nothing changes within the laws, we've got the commitment that it will change, but it hasn't changed as yet. So it's still a dangerous law for our people. So the sooner something's done to do that, the chances are that Aboriginal people will be safer.
It's caused the family great anguish that police have been investigating police in this. Tell us a bit more about it.
Well, we just don't think it's right. It's a conflict of interest. I think we found out through this process that the investigator would often consider what the police were thinking at the time and come from that point of view rather than asking the questions and finding out the truth. And this is what we're about. We want to know the truth and we want that to be out there and we want people to be held accountable.
Thank you. For police not to investigate police, what could be an alternative? How could we have prevented that death?
I think in terms of preventing the death, it comes down to the systemic racism and certain practices and policies that are in place. In terms of police not investigating police, well, like I said, it's conflicted. There could be a separate body,
absolutely,
that could investigate police contact deaths, and it shouldn't be Victoria Police investigating their own.
We need civilian review boards.
Something similar, yes, exactly. Something that was very independent. I know that they say this is independent, but we haven't found that to be the case.
So just one more question. Is it fair to say that this is a death that...
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. From the moment that Mum was taken off that train, that was the first failure in the system, but definitely them deciding to put her in a police cell instead of taking her to the hospital. And then if you're going to place her in that police cell, you need to monitor her effectively, which we clearly can tell that they did not do that.
Thank you.
And that was actually a press conference that that happened in regards to Tanya Day on the 11th of November 2019. And we're going to be speaking now with Priscilla, who is from North Australian Aboriginal Justice Agency. Hello, Priscilla. Welcome to the program. Hello, Priscilla. Oh. We've had a few technical difficulties here.
Hello, Priscilla.
Hello.
Oh,
Yes,
Priscilla.
I can hear you.
Are you there?
Yes.
Oh, Priscilla. We've had some technical difficulties. Are you able to do the interview? You're on air at the moment. It's Marissa speaking.
Yep.
It's lovely to have you. Now, Are you able to just say what your title is and what land you're from and what organisation you're from?
Yes, my name's Priscilla Atkins. I'm Eastern Islander from Central Australia, and I'm the CEO of the North Australian Aboriginal Justice Agency.
You sound great, Priscilla. Can you just kind of speak up a little bit?
My name is Priscilla Atkins. I'm the CEO of the North Australian Aboriginal Justice Agency, and I'm Eastern Islander from Central Australia.
Wonderful. But what just wanted to, I actually gave a little bit of an intro on Mr. Walker, the young Indigenous man who has recently died in custody. The Doing Time show is committed to building the movement to stop Aboriginal deaths in custody. And I'm wondering if you could just tell listeners who he is, his full name, and as much as possible, given our limitations, because there's a court case pending as to what happened.
Yeah, Colin J. Walker has grown up and lives in a remote community outside of Alice Springs. On the two police officers had attended his house, and we're not sure of the details just yet, but he was shot 3 times. He was then taken back to the police station. Unfortunately, that day they had all the nurses back to Alice Springs, so there was no medical assistance available there. And unfortunately, Colin J. Walker has passed away. Now it's gone into the police officer that's been charged with murder. He's been given bail and relocated back to his house outside the Northern Territory. So there's going to be a few things happening with criminal charges where the police will be going to court and prosecuted. And the naaja is also representing the family involved in the crime.
So Kuman J. Walker was shot and killed in police custody in a remote community in Alice Springs?
In Yundamo itself.
Oh, right, okay. So what do you think about the Royal Commission into Aboriginal Deaths in Custody? What do you think about those recommendations?
Well, the recommendations haven't really been implemented in the Northern Territory. There's a number of things that should be put in place, not even hard things to put in place. Things like, the police should be working with the law and justice groups in the remote communities. There should be formal agreements between the community and the police. All police should get cross-cultural training from the community themselves. They should be using interpreters. They should have alternatives to locking them up. They should go back to community policing so that the police actually work with the community, not against the community. So there are a lot of things that really should have been put in place many, many years ago. And if that was in place, this incident wouldn't have happened.
Absolutely. And indeed, there really shouldn't be all these guns, should there, in the community?
No. Well, the police officers in the Northern Territory are trained to use pepper spray and tasers. So the biggest question we've got is why weren't they used? Why did they resort? Why did this police officer resort to using a gun? It wasn't the young man had not murdered anyone. He had a warrant of arrest for parole conditions. So he hadn't committed a serious offence. So if anything, they should have been using the pepper spray or the taser.
And indeed, what do you think about the NT Chief Minister, Michael Gunner? He actually met with Wallarippi elders at the community and promised that the coronial investigation would be independent. What do you think of that?
Yeah, so naaja has also met with the Chief Minister and also the Police Commissioner. We requested it be an independent, thorough and transparent inquiry. They've actually got a commissioner from Western Australia leading the investigation on the police side. There'll also be the ICAC commissioner, so that's the Independent Commissioner Against Corruption, and then there'll also be the Crown as well doing his investigation, so it'll be hands-off from the police. What we're going to be doing is requesting that the police commissioner meet with key Aboriginal organisations and elders from that community so that we're across the steps that the police are taking and to make sure that it is going to be independent.
Is there really such a thing as an independent investigation, given that a lot of the investigations in regards to deaths in custody in general are internal police explorations?
Yeah, so that's why we have a new police commissioner start last week. I've allocated the commissioner from Western Australia, so he doesn't have any connections with police in the Northern Territory. But you also have the ICAC commissioner as well, who is totally independent. It's got hands off. You can't have police investigating police because that's a definite conflict of interest.
Indeed, it is a conflict of interest. And Priscilla, tell me whether you agree or disagree, but it seems to me that there's been quite a lot of Aboriginal deaths in custody, in particular over the last year or so. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, it's been a major concern of ours, and we have been raising it, that there should be measures put in place to address that. So naaja has actually established the custody notification service. We get a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week service for any Aboriginal person who is picked up in the Northern Territory. It will be legislation for the NT Police to call our hotline, and we have on our hotline a mixture of lawyers and Aboriginal client service officers, and the aim there is to do welfare checks to make sure that they're okay. Do they need medical assistance? Do we need to get the nurse in? Do we need to get them to the hospital? Do we need to link them to an Aboriginal medical centre? Do we need to contact their family? And that's the aim of it. Unfortunately, in this situation, naaja's custody notification service was not contacted when the young man was taken into the watch house when he was still in critical condition.
So the notification service wasn't contacted at all? You there? I think we may have lost Priscilla.
Priscilla? Huh.
And that's the end of that interview, I think. But I think we were able to get the gist of what's happened.
3CR are selling keffiyeh Palestinian scarves in support of the last factory that produces them in Hebron, Palestine. All profits will be donated to the reconstruction efforts in Gaza and support Palestinian industry. These are traditional scarves available in red and black, or you can choose from a modern design. Go to 3cr.org.au/shop to buy online or drop into the station during business hours.
You can call it what you want, but it just don't mean a thing. No, it just don't mean a thing. Fuck that, homie. You can come and wave your flag, but it don't mean a thing to me. No, it just don't mean a thing. Fuck that, homie. You can call it what you want, but it just don't mean a thing. No, it just don't mean a thing. Fuck that, homie. You can come and wave your flag, but it don't mean a thing to me. No, it just don't mean a thing. Fuck that, homie. They said, hey, Briggs, pick a date. Okay. You know what? We can celebrate. For sure. But we can come together, talk about the weather, call that Australia Day. I said, how about March 8th? That's a good one. And we can do it on your nan's grave. That bitch. We can piss on her face, get rid up and burn out like Mark Skates. The screaming love or to leave it, I got more reason to be a riff, you can believe it. Wants to loot a constitutional, who's underneath it? Turn that flag to a noose, put a cease to your breathing. I can't get on my whip, I get a ticket for that. I get an EWB, and that's a driving my split. I turn the other cheek, I get a knife in my back. And I tell them it hurts, they say I overreact. So fuck that. Fuck that. You can call it what you want, but it just don't mean a thing. No, it just don't mean a thing. Fuck that, homie. You can come and wave your flag, but it don't mean a thing to me. No, it just don't mean a thing.
I said celebrate the heretic anytime outside Jan 26. That's the date for them suckers doing that sucker shit. That's that land taking, flag waving attitude. Got this new Captain Cook dares to show you how to move. How you wanna raise a flag with a rifle that make us wanna celebrate anything but survival? Nah, you watching telly for The Bachelor, but wouldn't read a book about a fuckload of massacres. I remember all the blood and what carried us. They remember 20 recipes for lamingtons. Yeah, their ancestors got a boat ride. Both mine saw them coming until they both died. Fuck celebrating days made of misery. Why Oz still got the black history? And that shirt will get you banned from the parliament. If you ain't having the conversation, well then we starting it.
You can call it what you want, but it just don't mean a thing. No, it just don't mean a thing. Fuck that, homie. Now you can come and wave your flag, but it don't mean a thing to me. No, it just don't mean a thing. No, it just don't mean a thing.
I just don't mean a thing.
No, it just don't mean a thing.
I just don't mean a thing.
No, it just don't mean a thing.
I just don't mean a thing.
No, it just don't mean a thing.
I just don't mean a motherfucking
No, it just don't mean a thing.
Wave it, baby. Wave it, eat the flag.
Wave it, mama. Wave that flaggy.
Wear the flag.
Wave it, baby.
What you gonna do?
Wave it, baby. Wave it, mama. Wave that flaggy.
And you're back with the Doing Time show. And as listeners are aware, we were speaking with Priscilla from Alice Springs, and she was speaking about Mr. Walker, the young Indigenous man who died in custody. Priscilla was actually, I believe, in a doctor's office and in a remote community, and the reception was very poor. We had some technical difficulties. But we now have Sam Watson on the line, who's an Indigenous activist from Queensland, has been with us many, many times on the show. Mr. Walker's issues, death in custody, is a national issue, and he's very happy to talk about it. Hello, Sam. Welcome to the program.
Hello, how are you?
Not bad, Sam. Not bad. Considering all the deaths in custody that have happened. Can you tell us, what happened with Mr. Walker?
We can't go into
No, we can't do too much detail.
Those matters now have to be canvassed by legal representatives acting for the family.
Yes.
And there are there is a team of lawyers up there consulting with the family, loved ones and community leaders. So that's in process. It's unusual that the Northern Territory Police have come forward and charged a police officer with murder, the top grade charge. So as I said, that's an unusual step, certainly warranted given the circumstances that we're aware of. But I think generally people across Australia, particularly Indigenous people, are saying that this has got to stop. That since the recommendations of the Royal Commission were handed down in 1991, there have been a further 442 Aboriginal deaths in custody. So, and every time we confront a death in custody situation, we're dealing with the same set of circumstances, the same patterns of response by armed police, and the inevitable death to a prisoner. So we really do need to pressure the federal government to take direct responsibility for Aboriginal deaths in custody cases. There needs to be a national office set up, and that national office must be based in Sydney or Melbourne. And as soon as a death in custody happens anywhere in the 6 states or the Northern Territory, there must be a specialist team sent to that place within the first 2 hours. That specialist team must take full control of the situation. They must take full control of all the forensic evidence and material, and they must be the principal investigators, and that team must be in absolute control of the movements of police or prison officers, whichever the case may be. So we have to elevate these death in custody situations to a special level, and we must have that independent agency that has the authority, the legislative authority and power to be able to take full control of the situation, to isolate the police involved, so that the police don't have every opportunity to do what they've done in the past, which is to sit with each other for hours on hours, and the lawyers, and cook up a convenient version of events that will ensure that no one's going to be charged. So the case in Unimi has certainly highlighted, again, a number of very serious problems relating to the policies and procedures when police come into contact with Aboriginal people. We've seen a number of death in custody cases that are still being investigated in Western Australia, in New South Wales, in Queensland. So there really does we need to take death in custody situations out of the state jurisdictions and place them under the direct control of a national agency. That is a matter of high priority.
And indeed, from Western Australia, I believe it's Joyce Clark. Is that right? That died in custody. Joyce Clark from Western Australia died in custody.
Oh, we can't really mention names because of cultural sensitivities.
Oh yes, it differs from state to state, doesn't it?
Yeah. There are
other people. Yes.
Open cases relating to death in custody, but death in custody cases are not isolated to Aboriginal people. There are death in custody cases that relate to people, non-Indigenous people with mental health problems, non-Indigenous people who are homeless, non-Indigenous people who are just vulnerable and exposed to attention from police. So to this day, I can't remember of one single police officer in my lifetime, and I was born in 1952, one single police officer has ever been sentenced to a jail term over a death in custody or a criminal act being committed against a prisoner. So that's fairly appalling, given that there's been literally hundreds of cases where Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people and other persons have suffered and died in police custody. So, and yet not one single police officer has ever faced jail. So that is just appalling. So, as we said at the rally we held in Brisbane last week, that there's clearly two sets of laws in Australia. One set of laws for the majority of the population, and the other set of laws that are supposed to regulate the actions of police and prison officers.
Sam, I'm wondering, and of course I'll be guided by you as to what you can answer here, but I did want to really raise the topic because it is very important for listeners, because it appears that Aboriginal law is not really practiced, is it, in regards to deaths in custody?
Well, Aboriginal law, as in traditional law.
Yeah. Like for example.
I'll be loath.
Go on.
I'll be loath to go down that route because what you have here is a sworn police officer wearing the uniform and given a gun on behalf of the Crown of Australia, and using that legal authority charged to him to actually shoot and kill an Aboriginal citizen. So I don't believe that's a matter that should be dealt with within the context of a traditional Aboriginal legal situation. This is clearly a situation where this police officer has already been charged under British colonial law, and that officer now has to be tried to the full extent of the British legal system. And I would urge everybody to maintain a watching brief on just how this trial is going to be conducted, because we must remember that when a jury is going to be impanelled to hear this case, that jury must be selected from the appropriate jurisdiction. So, given that this incident happened in Yuendamu, then the jury, you would think, would be selected from a electoral records of adult persons living there at Yuendamu. So it's going to be interesting. As I said, I think I would urge people to maintain a watching brief as we move forward with this case.
Can you comment generally, Sam, on the role of the coroner's court and how effective do you think that inquests are in regards to Aboriginal deaths in custody?
Look, I'm not fully conversant with the way in which the Northern Territory legal system works. But
that's okay.
I do believe that now that the Attorney General in the Northern Territory has stepped forward and made a decision to charge that police officer, that we've moved beyond the role or need for a coroner's inquest, because the matter's now been placed fully within the criminal jurisdiction of the Supreme Court of the Northern Territory. So we don't. I would hazard a guess by saying that I don't believe that there would be a need to have an inquest at the moment. That the evidence will now be handed over to the Office of the Crown Law in the Northern Territory, and it'll be the Crown Law who will prepare the brief for the trial, and they'll be the agency that will be prosecuting on behalf of the Northern Territory government.
Also, and this is public knowledge, Sam, because it's been in the media, but the Aboriginal elders were actually able to do like a special ceremony for Mr. Walker after he passed away.
Yep.
And that's a good thing.
Yes. Whenever there's sudden tragic sorry business, and communities will utilise their cultural protocols in order to begin the healing process. So out of respect for the deceased person and the relatives and loved ones of that deceased person, the community will conduct certain rituals and ceremonies, and we certainly endorse their right to do so, and we are very, very moved by the way in which they're conducting themselves, because that people at Yindamu are conducting themselves with enormous restraint and dignity.
Yeah, and look, we invited you onto the show because this is a broadcast dedicated to Aboriginal deaths in custody, and although there are limitations as to what we can say because the matter is under investigation, I'm sure you would agree that it's terribly important to talk about this.
Yeah, you can't just lock it away and think that it hasn't happened. This has happened. There's a deceased person. That deceased person will be dealt with according to the cultural protocols of his family and his community. So that'll run its course. And at another level, the Northern Territory Legal departments will prepare for the committal hearing and the trial, and they will need a very large courtroom, I imagine, because there will be people from all over the world will want to be looking at this. Because remember, the Palm Island death in custody case,
yes,
back in November 2004, only attracted a charge of manslaughter against Senior Sergeant Chris Hurley, when there was every belief within the Aboriginal community that Hurley also should have been charged with murder. And the basic difference between the charge of manslaughter and the higher charge of murder is that the Crown Law, the prosecuting agency, must be able to prove that the perpetrator did form an intent to kill the victim. So I think, given the circumstances that have already been widely discussed in the national media, given that there's a police revolver, the three bullets were fired into the upper abdomen of the deceased person, that obviously the police officer who fired that weapon did form the intent to kill the victim, and again the actions immediately after the young man was shot also displayed an appalling lack of care for the victim, because the person was in the care and control of the police officer. He was shot 3 times, and yet there was no attempt to administer first aid, no attempt to call for urgent medical backup. So they say that the police are saying that the nearest medical option was some hours away, but this will have to play out now in the Northern Territory Court, because there will be the circumstances leading up to the police entering the dwelling, and then there will be the situation, the events that took place inside the dwelling, and then once the gun has been fired and once the young man has been shot 3 times, then there will be that situation, and then the events immediately after the young man had been shot, because the two police officers who are not qualified medical officers removed this young man who was having shot 3 times, removed him from his dwelling to the police station. And apparently at the police station, they locked the police station up and turned the lights off. And when family members went to the front door and the windows of the police station to inquire about the young man, they were told to go away, that everything was okay, that he was fine. So it took some time for the police to actually tell family members that the young man was in fact deceased.
This was at Palm Island, right?
This is at Yindamu.
Oh, Yindamu, sorry. Yes, so you've talked about Palm Island and also about Yindamu. That's good that you've linked those two, yes. Because there is a pattern emerging here, isn't there, Sam? That there's there doesn't seem to be a duty of care here. in terms of providing medical attention, correct?
That's right. Yeah. In both cases, in both the Palm Island case, the only concern of the police officers in the watch house on Palm Island in 2004 was safety and well-being of the police. And it took them some time to actually inform the family of Mulrunji Doomadgee that he had died. In Unamil, apparently, same situation existed, but again, I don't want to go too far down that track.
No.
Because we're stepping into sensitive legal country.
Yes. So it's approximately 4:54 and you're listening to the Doin' Time Show, and in case listeners have just tuned in, you're listening to an interview with Sam Watson. Sam, it's so great to have you on the program, and thank you so much for saving the day once again.
No problem.
And I mean, I'm sure you would appreciate, look, we have a lot of Aboriginal and non-Aboriginal people on the show, and sometimes, you know, people just can't make it or they're ill. You know, there's always a lot of trauma, isn't there?
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, let's watch this space and let's keep an eye on what's happening with this recent death in custody that has sparked outrage around the country and indeed all over the world.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Okay, mate.
Thanks so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Bye-bye. And that was Sam Watson, who is a very much loved Indigenous warrior from Queensland. And he has also wanted to comment on the death in custody of Mr. Walker. And I believe, Peter, we've got about 3 minutes left of our show.
5.
Or about 5 minutes left of our show. Thank you to all our guests. Thanks to Peter for pushing buttons there.
That's all right.
And for dealing with some of the technical difficulties emerging today on our show. But we managed to have 3 interviews. And so if people have missed out on most of the show, please listen back to the podcast, which will be available in a couple of days. And we'll be going out now pretty soon with our theme song, Black Fella, White Fella, by the Warumpi Band. And is there anything else?
No, we'll just go to a few
yeah, we'll go to an announcement. I think have a rest.
Yeah.
Tune in, dig deep and clean up by purchasing some fantastic discounted gardening books from 3CR's online garden store. We have books on water-wise gardening, organic vegetables, roses, climbers and creepers and even clematis. It's easy. Just go to our website 3cr.org.au and follow the links on the front page. Don't have internet access? Call the station during business hours between 9 and 5 and we'll post out a catalogue in the mail. All proceeds help keep Melbourne's favourite gardening show on air for another year. Tune in 7:30am every Sunday morning.
And you're back with the Doin' Time Show. And just a correction there, they weren't 3 interviews, there were 2 interviews and a press conference for Auntie Tanya Day.
Yeah, Miss Day.
So just to remind listeners, the Doin' Time Show is on every Monday from 4 to 5 p.m. Tune in every Monday. And it's now goodbye from Marissa and Peter. And we'll be going out with our theme song pretty soon with Black Fella, White Fella from Warumpi Band. And it was quite a sad show today, but it was also a show that was very, very necessary as we do the work to build the movement to stop Aboriginal deaths in custody and indeed to stop all deaths in custody. So it's goodbye from both of us. We've got Beyond Zero coming up next. And stay strong and take care of each other. And a shout out to our brothers and sisters inside. Bye.
Black fella,
color, as long as you a true fella, as long as you a real fella. All the people of different races with different lives in different places. It doesn't matter what your name is. We got to have lots of changes. We need more brothers if we're to make it. We need more sisters if we're to save it. Are you the one who's gonna stand up and be counted? Are you the one who's gonna be there when we're shouting? Are you the one who's always ready with a helping hand? Are you the one who understands this family plan? Black fella, white fella, yellow fella, any fella, it doesn't matter what you color, as long as you a true fella. All the people of different races with different lives in different places. It doesn't matter which religions, it's all the same where the ship is sinking. We need more brothers if we're to make it. We need more sisters